Kitco News special coverage of the Future Blockchain Summit is brought to you by Coin Payments, crypto payments made easy.
We're back at the Future Blockchain Summit in Dubai with Jessica Walker, who is the Chief Marketing Officer of Fluid Finance and the host of your own show, Tech from the Top. Welcome to the show, Kitco. Welcome to our program. And for you watching out there, well, stay tuned. We are going to get Jessica's outlook on the altcoin market and her preferred coin. But first, I want to talk about the overall bigger trends. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Great to be here.
All right. Biggest trends in cryptos right now. You've interviewed a lot of people on your own program, the Jessica Walker Show, and now it's called Tech from the Top. What have people been telling you about the biggest developments that are driving the crypto space right now?
I think we've had a really interesting shift from 2020. I think 2020, as we know, with the current market situation, everyone was locked indoors, everyone was looking at different diversification and also educating themselves on the crypto space. Over the last 2 years, it's been a really interesting movement throughout the industry. And I think currently, based on the fact that markets have slowed down, we're not seeing so much movement. Bitcoin has been pretty much trending sideways for the last 3 months, if not more. We're seeing people that are getting a little bit more into actually understanding the technology behind the cryptocurrencies and what that means for them as investors. I think one of the main trends that we're seeing is we're seeing organizations, we're seeing exchanges, we're seeing neobanks and bank alternatives really work to make cryptocurrency more accessible for the user. And on top of that, we're seeing Metaverse projects, NFT projects look to really level up when it comes to their user interface and their flow, because now is the golden time for organizations. Now is the time for them to stop, to build, so make sure when the next inflow of big users that come in, they're ready to handle that. I remember I was working for Bitpanda Exchange in 2020, and actually the huge demand that we saw, especially during the GameStop saga, we saw people flood to exchanges to look at Dogecoin and Shiba, that actually the exchanges couldn't keep up with the demand. So this is actually a great time. Bear markets are perfect for organizations that are looking to stay, to really look at how can we make it optimal for users, how can we make it faster, how can we make it more secure, and how can we improve the user flow so that the next bull market, we see a wider range of adoption than what we saw last year.
Okay, I do want to come back to adoption towards the end of the interview, but for now, let's talk about banking. So you mentioned alternatives to banking. What is wrong with the current CeFi banking system that you think DeFi could fix?
So the current system is kind of locked in its model. We haven't seen a level up in a very long time for banking. And banking actually is a sticky situation. It means that actually you can't navigate between global borders. Payments is expensive, it's actually slow, and it's not as agile as it should be. And on top of that, if you are crypto curious, it's not so easy to navigate into new and exciting business adventures. I want to ask you actually when you got into crypto, because this will help me with the banking situation. What year did you invest in crypto?
2 years ago. It was right after 2017 when everything went bust. And then I thought my friends actually, who are a lot more crypto savvy than myself, they were like, oh, David, you've got to get in now. Everything's starting to consolidate. Things are looking good. There's all these different projects happening. I thought, oh, I put a little bit of money. I was talking to you offline. I missed the big bull run up until 2017. I wish I gotten in, I didn't. But yeah, that was basically to answer your question.
And you would have likely gone onto an exchange, and that process might have taken some time. So for example, Coinbase currently advertises to their US customers, if they're looking to get on into crypto payments, it can take up to 3 to 5 business days for the money to leave your bank account and enter into a cryptocurrency exchange. Well, as we know in crypto, the markets move really quick, and in that time you could miss a golden opportunity, you could change your mind, or actually you could find that once the money gets there, it's less than you initially wanted to put in, and then on top of that, then purchasing crypto on an exchange is an additional resource for you and a different allocation. So for you as a user right now, it's not so agile to enter into the Metaverse, into NFTs, and just to accumulate a different portfolio of assets to what we're currently used to with fiat currency. And I think the one issue that we're seeing right now with the banking system is it's just not catering to that in the agile world. So for anyone that is looking to find out a little bit more about Fluid Finance, we really solve that with an on and off ramp into crypto. And I think it's just what the industry needs to see right now. I know I would have definitely got into crypto sooner, and I definitely would have accumulated more month-on-month basis if it was easier to purchase rather than having a bulk that I would upload into an exchange every quarter, for example.
Yeah. This is why, by the way, I like interviewing a fellow interviewer, because I got to start doing some thinking of my own now. I'm curious to what you're going to ask me next. No, I'm kidding. What do you think, why can't the current banks just upgrade their infrastructure such that transactions become faster and cheaper and more efficient? I mean, in theory, they could they not? And compete with some of these DeFi platforms.
Well, if we look at Bitcoin as a great example for why this is kind of this new digital currency that everyone is talking about, first of all, it's cross-border. So if you have a bank account that's based here in the United Arab Emirates, for example, and you're looking to send money to the United Kingdom, there has to be a streamline of processes there to make that possible. It's lengthy and also it is expensive to have that communication, and you also have to convert the currency along the way. So there's all these small steps that the banks have to take as a banking model. And nowadays, the banking model just hasn't kept up to how we as customers and as users, how we navigate, how many times we've flown this year in 2022 so far, which countries we've flown to, and how we're able to FX change in an immediate way, how we're looking to move money abroad. So if we look, I know you were originally a macro finance analyst as well. I was originally from Forex, and when I was working for a Forex TV station in 2015, Brexit was a huge talking point, how the Greece banks could actually, on the brink of bailout, how they could pause your accounts, and how you as a Greek customer could actually exit your funds. And this is a huge concern, and we're seeing right now the situation with Russia and Ukraine, the Russia sanctions as well. So for you as a consumer now, do you still trust your country's bank and your bank account? Would it not be easier for you to have a decentralized element to that, or at least the freedom to opt in and out of the two?
Interesting you asked me that. I am from Canada, as you know. Okay. And we have, I don't know if you follow, but the truckers' protest happened in Ottawa earlier in the year. And first they froze the accounts of some of the protesters, and then people started sending the protesters money via cryptocurrencies. But the governments were able to not shut down per se, but lock the accounts on the exchanges of the cryptocurrencies associated with some of the protesters. So to your point about DeFi escaping centralized regimes, the governments, in a country like Canada, still have the authority to shut down cryptocurrency transactions. How about that?
On centralized exchanges.
Right.
And I think you're right, this is still a real misbridge of information, and also this completely goes against the grain of blockchain and why we're all in this industry and why we see the potential. And it can show how powerful governments really are. This can show how, when you are still looking to navigate, and even globally, the global community came together to help out people in Canada that did have their accounts froze, actually how the governments could intervene, and it was a pretty scary time. If anything, it was also more of an advocate for decentralization. This is why we need Bitcoin, this is why we need currencies that governments can't control, and it was still a pain point. I know we did see the CEO of FTX and also Changpeng Zhao from Binance. They did speak out and did say to some certain extent that they weren't going to really participate in the final blocking of the Canadian. To a certain extent, I do remember them speaking out about it, but it is still a challenge with centralized exchanges, and I think it does show the industry does have some way to go, but this is what happens when there is the misbridge between the two. So at Fluid Finance, for example, we're built on the Arbitrum network, so you can easily then just bridge it yourself and then link up to your Web3 wallet. And I think the one trend that we are seeing as well, to answer your previous question, is the beauty of Web3. Web3 as a decentralized web portal, something which single entities like Google, like Facebook don't have ownership of. So this gives you the power of your own data and the power to navigate as you wish through the internet. So I do think we are going to see freedom as more of a requirement in 2023 and beyond.
A devil's advocate might say, Jessica, freedom is a two-sided coin. Freedom also gives terrorists and criminals the ability to transact under the radar using cryptocurrencies and blockchain. How would you respond to that? You've probably heard this before many times.
I have heard this before, and I actually love this question because I think people that do ask this question, they can really be identified with the fact that blockchain transactions, everything is on an open public ledger. So actually, money, cash, is so much more of a kind of dirty secret in the land of assets than cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrencies, you are able to see and you are able to verify how money has moved throughout cross-border, internationally, and interoperably as well. So, for example, we use Merkle Science as a blockchain regulator in some regards, not a regulator, but they are able to monitor transactions that could be considered fraudulent or could be considered a risk that comes through our process. And I think it's up to the industry as well to be vigilant. And if you are an organization that works as a kind of cross-border payment, or an industry, if you are an organization that works as a bridge between sending funds, you do have to have some form of security and third party that will come in and assist you.
Just on that point, I want to touch on regulation real quick. One question about this: where do you think regulators need to go next? What are some of the areas within DeFi and blockchain that need to be regulated more, you think?
Yeah, I think 2020 was a really big year for the industry as a whole.
2020?
2022, sorry.
22, okay.
I think 2020 was also a big year, but 2022
yeah, that's true.
for crypto was a really big year because we started the year off with the Celsius issue. We then went through and saw UST, we saw the Terra situation. So suddenly there's a question around stable coins, algorithmic stable coins. How can people lock the price of one currency and peg it to a fiat currency? I do think there is going to be more questions that regulators will need to ask. And actually, I think for regulators to observe the cryptocurrency space and to understand it, it will help the industry grow in quite a specific way. We are based here in Dubai at the moment, and Dubai regulators actually work quite well with the cryptocurrency exchanges that do have bases here. So the jurisdiction is really looking to move forward and integrate cryptocurrencies in a progressive and positive way. I think there are certain regions, I'm from the UK, I do think there are certain financial conduct authority that could work better to understand a little bit more about the cryptocurrency space and how to work with it rather than against it.
I want to touch on the metaverse now because you brought that up as one of the key words of themes in 2022 and beyond. Let's back up here, Jessica. Why do we need a metaverse? Now, granted, there are many forms of metaverses. One could argue we've already had the metaverse even before blockchain technology came along with video games, online gaming and whatnot. But why would I go to, let's say, a virtual concert or a virtual meeting when I could just have a phone call or go to a physical music concert? What is the advantage of the metaverse here?
I think we're already in the metaverse to a certain extent. I think so much of what we do...
Are we in a simulation right now?
We could
Are you and I computer
be.
simulations?
But the people watching this on their phone, I mean, you could argue that this is some word of us moving into this more digital focus. If we look at Roblox, for example, Roblox has 40 million games currently. Roblox is an enormous amount of daily users. I think it's 46 million concurrent users was the record for Roblox. The average age is between 12 and 16. So the younger generations are used to a more digital and a more immersive experience. And I think what we're going to see moving forward is we're going to see younger generations expect to see, I think e-commerce was a great example, the evolution from e-commerce of online shopping all the way through into an immersive commerce. We saw brands like Gucci go into Sandbox and go into Roblox. We've seen Nike, Adidas, even McDonald's own virtual land in the metaverse. So we've seen that move from organizations and shopping experiences. This is where we need, and it goes back to banking, this is where we need banking to keep up as well. We need, for example, what would you do if you had a customer service representative and you could go into your virtual bank in the metaverse and you can ask them a question as opposed to going online and asking a virtual AI assistant. So there is definitely going to be a level up of what you as a consumer is used to seeing. And I think the metaverse is something that as generations get older and grow up, it's going to be even more immersed.
What's the investment implication here? How do you profit from the rise of the metaverse?
So I was working with CoinMarketCap earlier on this year, and we did an interview with one of the guys from Sandbox. Virtual land was a huge investment opportunity. So for people that were looking to profit off the metaverse, the virtual land element, the kind of real estate within the metaverse was a very lucrative industry. Obviously, this isn't financial advice from my side, but there's definitely ways that you can kind of play the game. You can also earn as well. I think the play to earn trend of the 2020 when COVID hit across Southeast Asia has also got people used to the idea of actually benefiting and creating some monetary gain from using these platforms as well. So it does level the playing field for different ways to incentivize users with different price points and different entry points.
Okay, talking about NFTs now, I want to show you this headline that popped up in my newsfeed. Logan Paul's $623,000 2021 NFT is now worth $10.
Now worth $10, I saw this.
Yeah, look, generally speaking, the NFT space hasn't done well during this crypto winter. I believe I read a stat on OpenSea or Variables, I can't remember which one, but trading volume is down something like 97%. Will the space ever make a comeback, you think?
I think we will see a better utility for NFTs. So I think we will see people that will expect more in the next 5 years. For example, you mentioned concert tickets earlier. People will have a higher demand for, I don't want to just purchase a concert ticket. I want to be able to go to a physical conference, but also live stream it virtually and also get a token that I can then sell. If it's my favorite band is One Direction, for example, that's not my actual music taste, but it was just the first thing that came to my head. And I go to every single concert every year and I buy a ticket. Well, how awesome would it be if I could also get a tradable NFT, I could collect them and then I could sell them and go on. And it gives another element to fan merchandise as well. I think there are so many pillars of NFTs that we're already used to. So kind of collectibles, we've already seen Pokemon was a great example when we were growing up. Fan merchandise, when you go to a concert, people do keep memorabilia. So if you do go to a concert and you enjoy it, you're likely to keep the stub of the ticket. And this kind of brings it all together. But then if we talk about the next digital era, NFTs really just encompass all of that into one goal. And also that could make you more money as well.
Okay. And other projects or protocols that you follow besides what we've talked about?
Yeah, so I have to go back to Fluid Finance because for me, actually, it's a banking application that I use as well, just to help me navigate in and out of Web3. And then we do have a Fluid utility token, which means you get access to the card. Anywhere where MasterCard is accepted, you can actually spend your funds that are in your account. So for me, it's super simple. My family have accounts as well. But one project that we also saw, and we're here at Crypto Conference, the guy who's the CEO, Mickey Watkins, just walked past, is World Mobile. So World Mobile is actually the #1 traded token on the Cardano blockchain. I love projects that have utility. I love projects where you are likely to hold a token for 2 to 5 years. You really believe in what the guys are building, and there is a real use case for us as people, not kind of this philosophical meta world yet. So what they're looking to do is incorporate the telecoms industry with blockchain. There's a staking element for use to incentivize. It brings internet access to Africa using real kind of air balloon drones.
Yes.
And this is actually something that will really change the element of connecting the unconnected before we manage to bank the unbanked. So they've already rolled out processes in Zanzibar and Tanzania. They've done amazing things. So for anyone that's looking for a little bit more information, they can go over to the Twitter. But for me, I'm insanely inspired by the team.
Philosophically speaking, that kind of investment strategy or style is similar to investing in a stock. The equity value is determined by not just market forces and traders, but also the underlying utility of the stock itself, with what the company does. And so right now you're betting on, I guess, all these different things that you've mentioned, right? That you think that development in Africa, for example, will have upside.
Global impact, you've got to look at global reach, how this could reach the most people. Like, you're right, they'll say typically, if you're going to invest in 5 stocks, invest in 5 stocks that are products that you use every single day and you can't imagine cutting from your life. So for you, it might be Red Bull, for me, it might be Diet Coca-Cola, and then watching that evolve and seeing how that grows. And that's really how you can invest. So I personally am not a day trader. I don't invest on a daily basis and trade. But what I do is I do dollar cost average Bitcoin and Ethereum, and then I do look at projects that I really believe in, and I know that in 2 years I'm still going to be following them. The team is amazing as well. I always like to go to conferences to meet the team. I think in crypto there is kind of a dark hole of making sure that who you know is actually who they say they are. So I would say to anyone looking to invest, that's really important as well. What
do you think of the, I know you're not a trader per se, but what do you think of the Bitcoin price? Are we almost at a bottom, you think? How do you feel?
It's a bargain. I'm reading mixed reviews online. I'm still accumulating at the moment.
Yes.
I wouldn't be surprised if we did dip a little bit lower, because typically October, we're not really seeing that right now, and then November and December typically are quite bearish months. Let's wait and see how things go.
Final question. You were a broadcaster before you started working for your own channel.
Yes.
And you were covering FX and other areas of business. What did your family say when you started covering cryptos?
My mum actually bought Bitcoin in 2018, so she was earlier than most people that were kind of in the industry, and she bought on Coinbase and she was loving Bitcoin.
Right.
They still are not entirely sure what I do and what I'm building, but they've come to Dubai, they've seen the kind of future element of how this digital era is moving, and I think no, they don't understand, but I think they should be excited. It was actually the reasoning behind the CoinMarketCap show, Explain Like I'm 5. We were trying to explain in simple terms, so I could send videos to my mum of explaining Bitcoin, NFTs, and all of that.
Why should your mum, or I guess my mum, you and I are around the same age, but why should people of our parents' generation adopt blockchain? I mean, retirees, they're not working anymore. It's a speculative asset, one would argue, very volatile. What's in it for them to buy Bitcoin, for example?
Such a good question. And I'm going to go to the UK. I know we've spoken about different regions. We spoke about Greece. We spoke about the Russia-Ukraine situation. I'm going to focus on the UK for this answer. That's where my parents are based. But we saw the Great British Pound fall to historic 36-year lows just a few weeks ago.
Against the dollar,
yes, yeah, against the dollar, exactly. Brexit as a situation has caused a lot of financial volatility, and then also we've had an increase in change up in mortgage ratings. So all of a sudden, people's mortgages can be up to 30% more than they were previously. There is a huge concern right now about the security of people's own fiat currency and their own country's coin. And I think that's the first time that for us in the UK that we've been used to that instability. It was always the Great British Pound, and that was something that we were really used to, not questioning the strength of our own currency. And I think being able to diversify and be able to have other options beside fiat is really important, more now than ever. With so much geopolitical uncertainty, I think diversification is key.
Well, if my mother's watching, I hope she'll be convinced.
There we go.
Jessica Walker, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. Great to have you.
And thank you for watching Kitco News. I'm David Lin. Stay tuned for more.
Kitco News special coverage of the Future Blockchain Summit is brought to you by Coin Payments. Crypto payments made easy.